You want to start that? The intro is really soft, so you're good.
I mean, we can stay in the mountains. 3 days. And we'll probably have this Thursday, night somewhere. It was just my show. That's what I did. Well, I wrote it down.
In the car. Away. Around. The kingdom.
Okay, outside of the Western Wall, how many places did you recognize and could you name? That's your quiz.
That's why we're down.
My name is Ronnie Breeden. I'm here on behalf of Educational Opportunities. I work as the Director of Travel Ministry for the state of Indiana. Here's what I would tell you. Before I took my first trip, I would have been lucky to have identified the Western Wall. And that was over a decade ago. As I sat there and watched every one of those pictures, as obscure as some of them were, I could tell you exactly where they were, what they were, and when I took them in one of the last several trips. My wife Sherry's here with me. She's traveled a number of times, and actually my son Riley is now a veteran traveler. He and I were just there in December because he got tired of mom and dad being able to go and said, when do I get to go? And so we just got back right before Christmas, having been to the Holy Land. I'm a pastor. I'm a fellow traveler. I love to travel, not only the Holy Land, but been to Greece and followed the pathway of Paul. My wife and I are leading another trip following the pathway of Paul this coming fall. This past spring, we went and did England and followed the John Wesley Heritage Trail. As a director of travel, I started in that capacity. You ready for this? January of 2020. Great time to enter the travel industry. For better or worse, I was taking a group of almost 50. We were the last full group that started our tour and ended our tour as scheduled, as we departed at the end of February to come home. And as y'all know, March 13th, everything came to a crashing halt. 2 days after we left, Bethlehem closed, as did the Western Bank. And it just started tumbling from that point forward. But past that, I've had the opportunity to help a number of pastors, and happy to, when Sam gave me a call to be able to be here today and share with you. When I talk about traveling to the Holy Land and the pathway that you're going to follow on your trip, I try to explain it to you. If you're trying to figure out whether or not you should go or what the value of going is, growing up as a kid in Indiana, we go through all the Civil War studies, right? And I became completely fascinated with the Civil War, especially Gettysburg. And I had great parents, so they would plan trips around what their kids were. And of course, I was the oldest and the only son, so I always won where we got to go. And so one summer, while I was still in elementary school, we went to Pennsylvania, and one of the stops was to go to Gettysburg. And I could not wait. And then if you've never been, or if you understand anything about the Civil War, I stood in the fields of Gettysburg at one end and looked at the other and said, this is Pickett's Charge. Now, in my mind as a kid, I thought Pickett's Charge was this really cool thing. And then I realized from here to the end of the hall was the length. And someone actually stood up and ran while another group lined up and said, fire. And at that point in time, my thoughts about war and the Civil War were completely changed. The way in which I talked about it, the stories that I read, they weren't a novel, they were real. That's what the Holy Land does. The best way I can describe it is your Bible will no longer be one-dimensional. It's a pop-up book. Because as you read the stories, you'll cough with the dust in your lungs. Because you will, as I said, you come back home and you begin to read the stories, you will pause in the middle of it, you will apologize and say, I'm sorry, for just a moment, I was back in Capernaum. For just a moment, I was on the Sea of Galilee. For just a moment, I was in the streets of Jerusalem. Because you will not be able to step away from that after having experienced it. In addition to that, you're going to get to know one another in a way you never would have known one another. You're going to get to know your pastor in a way, right? I mean, the truth of the matter is, no matter what you do, the amount of time that you spend with your pastor is not 24/7. You're going to learn what he's like in the morning. You're going to learn what he's like at lunch. You're going to learn like what he's like at dinner. You're gonna learn and experience things, because in the time that you travel, you will have spent more time with your pastor than you would in a 10-year period just with him doing anything else. You will come home with friendships solidified because of the travel and the experiences that you'll share. You're going to come back with inside jokes that you will have because you've been together. I don't want to cut this short. You're also going to be able to be a tourist, right? Being a tourist is fun. You get to go places you've never been, experience culture that you've never experienced, food that you would have never. You will see things. You will run around doing this forever, right? If you're like me, I'm constantly asking my wife to change the lens. I need my long lens for my DSLR, and I'm wanting to switch that out. I'm wanting to bounce back and forth with this. I'm a photo bug. I finally have cut down the number of photos that I take. This last trip, I only took 1,500. The first trip, I took 4,500. Out of those 4,500, I might have 30 or 40 that I think are keepers that are there. But they help tell the story when I come home.
And bring an extra battery because it's not charged during travel.
Yeah. So you will have that opportunity to be a tourist. But at some point during the trip, I can promise you this, you will leave here as a tourist with all the expectation of travel. And it will not be at the same point for each of you. But at some point during the trip, you will go from being a tourist and you will become a pilgrim. And here's the difference. A tourist goes to experience a place they've never been. A pilgrim is going home. At some point on your trip, you will come to the realization that the land that you are walking is yours. The artist that was singing before actually made a statement. He says, Jerusalem's the place that you've never been, but feel like you're at home. I actually had an older gentleman once before a trip said, I don't really feel the need to go. I'll wait till the New Jerusalem. And I said, oh, you'll be the one that doesn't know where anything is. That's the point. That's the point of becoming a pilgrim. Pilgrims return to a place that they belong. Pilgrims go to a place that is their home, but they haven't been there for such a long time and don't know what it is. And so you will go as a tourist, and at some point you will have a light bulb that goes on and says, I'm home. And at that moment you will have become a pilgrim. Now, what I can tell you is the company that you're traveling with, Educational Opportunities, that we're in our Jubilee year. We're celebrating our 50th year of travel to the Holy Land. EO is the largest U.S. supplier of travelers to Israel. During the pandemic, Dr. Ridgway, our president and CEO, met regularly with the Minister of Tourism, one-on-one, because they wanted to know when EO was coming back, because of the number of folks that EO brings every year to that. Depending on who you ask, tourism is anywhere from second to fourth on the list of the gross national product for the nation of Israel. And their new partnerships with Egypt and Jordan, they're all now trying to roll out their red carpet to figure out how to capture that from a tourism standpoint. Remember, you're tourists first, so you're going with curiosity that's there. That means with EO, 50 years experience brings 50 years experience with guides and all the travel. So as you go from country to country, you're going to see the same people day in and day out. You'll have a guide as you go to each of those countries that stays with you, a bus that stays with you each of those times. So you're not on public transportation. You're on EO operated. Your bus driver is staying with you at night. You're not waiting for them, hoping that they don't get caught in traffic in the morning. They'll be having breakfast with you in the morning, and they'll have dinner with you at night, and they'll go off in a corner with their friends for lunch. That's there. Just a couple of the trip highlights, and Sam, I'll let you pop up just a couple of those pictures. One of your highlights, as someone said, a lot of places that you go, you're trying to figure out, is it real? And there's a difference. We can say, somewhere in this general vicinity, Jesus was here. Other times we can say, this is the spot, and we know for a fact he was here. And other times we can go, well, it's a reasonable facsimile. In all of that, there's one thing that hasn't changed since the time of Jesus. I can promise you the Sea of Galilee is still the Sea of Galilee. And you will board a boat, and you will go out into the middle of water, and they will cut the engine where the motor's not running anymore, and you will be set adrift out there on the Sea of Galilee, and it will be the closest that you can ever say, I get it. And in that moment, you will be adrift on the Sea of Galilee in the same way Jesus was with his disciples. And then you will discover how small the world is, because you will be able to look to the north, the south, the east, and the west, and see all the shoreline. And then you'll understand why Jesus could be up on the hill and see them sailing to the other side and go, oh my goodness, look, there's a storm and they're in trouble. And that story will never read the same ever again. This is in Capernaum. This is the synagogue that's built. It's not that I can take you around the corner. There's black basalt stone. Touch the stone. You have to reach behind the rope. That's the stone from the temple, or from the synagogue at the time of Jesus. The synagogue that you can see here, which is the white stone, has been built on top of that foundation. But you'll be able to sit with your guide, sit with your pastor. Your pastor will teach you just as the rabbis did of old, and you'll sit in a synagogue as a student, surrounded by the temple, by the columns there from within the synagogue. And you'll be able to do that in Capernaum, the place that Jesus called his home base. Next. You'll never read about the wilderness again as you journey both through Jordan and through Egypt, right? Jesus, we're in the middle of Lent, or the start of it anyway, and Jesus spent 40 days in the wilderness. I got news for you. It doesn't take you long to walk over the side of the hill, and guess what? I don't know if I'll ever see you again, because there's nothing out there to provide you anything. And you will journey through that and have the opportunity, based on your itinerary, you experience that. I can tell you, my first trip, we didn't go there. My second trip, we went there. Now it's on my itinerary every trip I go, because it completely changes the landscape of what you have thought about when you read the Old Testament and the New Testament, when you realize how barren that area is, and yet it's part of the Fertile Crescent. This just happens to be the area that's known as the wilderness that's there. That was it. I think I just had those few that were there. I'm going to try and answer some of the questions that are here. One of them is related to COVID and the ever-changing questions. If you want to ask me a question about what's going to be the restrictions and whether or not you're going to need a QR code or any of those other things, let's talk about that in the 1st of November. It is constantly changing. And as of right now, most places have lifted all of their restrictions that are there, but that doesn't mean that that won't change tomorrow. Every one of them has been different. When we went in December, we had no restrictions whatsoever that were there. Didn't require vaccine records, didn't require testing, didn't require any of that. 5 months earlier, my wife and I had gone to England, and we had to have all kinds of testing. And 5 months prior to that, we went to Greece, and we had to have tests, and we had to have our vaccine card wherever we went. So things are loosening back up to the way they were pre-pandemic. EO does a really good job of communicating what those requirements are. They'll be communicating with you by email. They'll be communicating with Sam. They'll be communicating with myself if any of those types of things change. So right now, in terms of what are those, I don't know. The biggest one that most people ask is that other brochure that I handed out to you, and that is, you tell somebody you're going to go to Israel, or you're going to go to the Middle East. What's the first thing they say? Are you going to be safe? Security in Egypt, in Israel and Jordan is preeminent. Here's what I mean by that. Egypt has a relationship with the United States that says any U.S. tourist group will be provided personal security. You won't know it, but if you look around, you're going to see a black vehicle with heavily armed people that don't take their eyes off of you. Same type of thing when you're in Jordan. When you're in Egypt, I know that you read about things that happen, right, that hit the news headlines. Let me give you the equivalent. Decatur, how worried are you about a shooting in downtown Indianapolis? Does it make you stay awake at night and worry as to whether or not you're safe? That's the headlines that you're receiving. The friction that exists in Israel is between Zionist Jews and Palestinians. Do you know what their bread and butter comes from? Jerusalem. And you know what? And who's providing their bread and butter? Tourists. Now, you ready for this? Guess who the number one and number two provider of tourists to Jerusalem are? U.S. is number one. Guess who's number two? Putin's Russia. Now, if you're a terrorist and you want to take on a bus, do you want to touch that bus knowing that it could be Americans or Russians on board? It is, I can tell you this, my wife has been with me. We have been out at night. We have walked the streets of Tiberias. We've walked the streets of Jerusalem. We've walked the streets of Athens. I have never felt safer than my time in Israel. And I live and have spent most of my life on the northeast side of Indianapolis. The security measures that are in place, and here's the thing, EO in all of their years has never had an incident. It doesn't mean that they haven't been prepared. They're prepared not just for an incident, they're prepared for, wait, it's the Middle East. So there's a reason why the bus stays at the hotel. And there's a reason why the driver is there with you. Because if you get a wake-up call in the 2 a.m. that says, don't worry about your luggage, head down to the lobby, we're getting on the bus, it's because they're already making arrangements to get you out of the country and out of the city. Those things are always work EO. We have staff on the ground. So it's different from most travel companies. When you arrive, you're going to be greeted by staff that it works for educational opportunities. Because we have people that are there wherever you are working to connect you. With the preeminent, if you're not safe, you're not going to enjoy the trip, right? And so the biggest thing there is that we wouldn't send you if you weren't going to be safe, and 50 years of continual safety in which we have not experienced an incident. Now here, just because you're going to ask the questions, what if you were scheduled to go to Bethlehem tomorrow, and then you were going to go to Jerusalem the following day? You might wake up in the morning and said, you know what, we've decided to flip the schedule because we've learned that there's going to be an organized protest, and we just don't want to put you at risk. Because trust me, they know everything. These are planned events that take place. But most of the things that you hear about are occurring, they're not in the tourist center. They're in other places. And your guides and your staff, if there's something you want to do of an evening or of a morning, all you do is ask a question and they're going to tell you, yeah, don't do that. Or, yes, you can go, just don't go by yourself. Make sure that you're in a group that's there. I'm going to try to go through this. One of the questions was approximately 10 days to 2 weeks before the trip, you're going to get a nice little package. The package will have some study guides in it, things that will help you. They'll have luggage tags, so you can mark your luggage so that it's always marked so that we know what bus it goes on if it gets misplaced. You get a name tag that's basically your pass. So as long as you have your name tag on, nobody charges you for breakfast, nobody charges you for dinner, and nobody says, why are you here? And about a week before your departure, you'll get an email. You used to get a packet like this that would come FedEx. The beauty is now it all comes to you electronically about 7 days before departure, and it will have all your information about your flights, your boarding passes, and all that. The reason that we wait for that is, anybody paying attention to what the airline industry is doing? I have a group that's going to Guatemala, and I use EO's missions department for those flights. My flights have already changed 3 times, and I've only had the trip booked for 4 months. They're constantly reworking what the schedule looks like in terms of that. So that's why they wait to the last minute, because then they know exactly what your flight schedule will be. It doesn't mean that they're waiting to book them 10 days beforehand. They're waiting to secure with the airlines that nothing has changed with that. The type of hotels that you'll be staying in, I would grade them if you were in the US. It's a Hampton Inn, but much bigger, because there's dining halls and restaurants, and there's a bar, and there's balconies with that. By their standards, they would call them 4 stars. By ours, we would say 3 to 4. I mean, that's how I pretty much rate a Hampton Inn that's there. How many have traveled in Europe? It's European style, or been on a cruise. European style bedding. They don't know what a double bed is. Double bed is 2 twin beds linked together. So if you like to cuddle in the middle, you're going to have to learn to navigate the seam. It's just a European model where they can turn it into 2 singles or a double really quickly in terms of that. Other than that, it's the same. Every night you'll have hotel service that takes care of the room, those types of things. You have hotel concierge, staff, and all of that. The question then was, are the bathrooms located in the rooms? Yes. Yes, this is not communal living where everyone has to, schedule their time for the shower. You will have a bathroom that is yours, all those, for your room and all of that. And I would say the rooms, I always say the rooms will surprise you, because you go with some kind of expectation, and then you go, oh, wow, what was I worried about? That's the best way to describe it. There's a number of hotels that we use. What I can tell you is, because you're coming from Jordan, everything that you thought about the Arabs, you're going to experience that. They are over the top, because tourism is so new to them. The facilities are over the top. They don't know how to deliver hospitality. In that regard, I would forgive anyone that I might offend. They're very French in their approach. Like, how dare you ask me that? But the facilities, they will be some of the best facilities you've ever stayed in when you're coming through Jordan with that. Go ahead, Ian. Are there restrooms on the buses? And the answer is no, and say thank you. Because if you've ever traveled on a bus that has a bathroom on it, there's a reason why everybody sits at the front. So no, there are not restrooms on the buses. The buses are designed for touring, so no matter where you sit, you have a great view. USB plug-in, so you can recharge your phone. Most of our buses are now equipped with Wi-Fi, so that you can link and share with your social media with all your friends at the 8-hour time difference that's there. But bathrooms will be accessible. What I mean by that is, here's what you're going to get used to. You stop someplace, you're visiting it, your guide tells you all about it. Maybe it's a spot where Sam's going to share a devotion with you, you're going to read a passage of scripture, and then the guide's going to say something like this. All right, folks, we need to be back on the bus in 25 minutes. So everybody set their watch and take a look at that. In 25 minutes, we need to be back on the bus. The bus is on the other side of the gift shop, and the bathrooms are as you leave. And you will hear that over and over and over again. To get to the bus, you gotta go through the gift shop, and the bathrooms are on the other side of the gift shop. And so they're always available. Guides are very good at knowing them, even if you're at a spot where you go, this is an emergency, I need a bathroom right now. Your guides are going to know intimately where they can get you to something quickly, if that's the case. But bathrooms are available at all those sites. We're not in the middle of nowhere as you're visiting those places. What to wear? Well, one, the time of year that you're going to go overnight, it may be in the low 40s, and during the day, your weather's going to look like our forecast for the next week. 70 today, 50 the following day, maybe storm. You're not in the rainy season, so you're outside of that. But we were just there 2 weeks later than you were. We had one day that was 80 degrees. The other days that we had, it was this and maybe a light jacket. You dress in layers. You leave in the morning because when you get on the bus, it's 45 degrees out. And by the lunchtime stop, it's already 60 and the sun's out, and it may get warmer than that as you go. So it's not hard to pinpoint that. I'm going to share with Sam that he should probably meet with you about a week before you depart, and you'll be able to pull up the 10-day forecast for every place that you're going, and it'll give you a really good snapshot, at least of what that varying temperature is going to look like that's there. So that being said, what do you want to wear? From a U.S. perspective, I would call it resort wear. Most of the places that you're going to go, if a head covering is required, they will provide it. So for men, what that means is if it's Jewish in nature, they're going to give you a yarmulke. Because wearing a baseball hat is not considered religious. It's offensive. And ladies, if you carry a scarf with you, there may be a few places, especially in Jordan and in Egypt, more so than in Jerusalem, where a head covering, again, if it's required, they're going to let you know that, that's there. And if you don't have one and want one, I'll promise you that there'll be a vendor offering them to you, 3 for $10, good price. And you pick which one you want. That's there. When it comes to that, what I'd say is, I love the sentiment, but not in the Middle East.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, just don't walk in advertising that you're American. That would be the way of describing that. When you do that, you will find that you will blend in, because there are going to be Koreans and Philippine and Asian and Chinese and Russians and Armenians, and there's going to be people from all over the world that are traveling. The last thing you want to do is paint yourself as what they would label as an ignorant American.
So you're saying like t-shirts without words?
Yes.
A t-shirt, you know, hey, if you want to wear a t-shirt that says Def Leppard on it, you'll probably find you have like a bunch of friends. The Beatles, they will come flocking to you. You know, they're like, oh, you a Beatle fan? We got in a cab and we'd gone out into the outer skirts of Jerusalem, and we wanted to take a cab home. And I got in, and the guy, I told him the address in the hotel, and he goes, oh, you from America? And I said, he said, where from? Indiana. He goes, okay, I play good music for you. Boom, it's Elvis Presley. Is that good? And he's singing at the top of his lungs, because I'm supposed to know every Elvis. Sadly, he knew every word. But it's just being, what I say is common sense in terms of that. It's just not, make sure you're not sticking out. You know the stereotypical image of the Japanese tourist, you know, the one with 4 cameras around their neck. Don't be that tourist. You know, no, jeans you're buying, tennis shoes. Yeah, I've got people that travel. If you're wearing jeans, you're fine. If you're wearing,
Almost every day, that's what Because it's comfortable.
She laughs. She's a jeans girl, and I'm dress pants. You know, I famously went to Kings Island wearing Florsheim dress shoes and dress pants and did it for 3 days because they were more comfortable than anything else. And she's just like, you're crazy. So it's wear what's comfortable. You're best off, if you want shorts, keep them for the night at the hotel. You're going to be at resort wear. Capri should be okay. Yeah.
Cover the knees.
That's amazing. And again, your guide, so let me back up for a moment. For a typical day, you're going to get a wake-up call in your room. Now, it'll be probably between 6:30 and 7:15 most mornings as a wake-up call. Now, that sounds horrible, except for your body's not going to know what time it is, so it doesn't matter. Because that's like a wake-up call at, what is that, 10 o'clock at night. By the time you arrive, you have completely lost track of time and you're on theirs, and it's like you'll be waking up before the phone rings because you're so worried that you're going to sleep through the phone ringing, and then you're suddenly on hold. The reason they just give everybody the same wake-up call. Breakfast is on your own, but it gives you enough time so that the only other direction, here's your wake-up call, and you need to be on the bus at this time. And in most cases, it's going to be on the bus by around 8. And that's so that you can travel to wherever you need to go. And your guide is working really hard to avoid lines. Because they know, this is the craziest thing, those guides know exactly what groups are going where. And so they are scheduled. They may have talked to 5 other groups that are there at the same time, and they know, what time are you planning to get there? Great. So places that we've been to, we went to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. So the chapel, the church complex that's built over the Garden Tomb and Calvary. My 3 previous trips, we never even got into the tomb because there was anywhere from an hour and a half to 2.5 hour wait. You don't have that time. We ate lunch at a cafe around the corner. I left everybody else at the table and I said, I'm done with lunch. I'll see you when we get there. Because I walked in, there was nobody there. When our group walked in, we created the line to get into the Garden Tomb. When we went to the Church of the Nativity, we had to wait. You know why we had to wait? Because the priests were doing a private service in the nave at the Church of the Nativity. And as soon as they were done, they opened the doors and we went in. Why? Because our guide had figured out where we needed to be at what time to try and maximize that. You are traveling at a time that is the best time. It's like picking when to go to Disney. When the lines are going to be short, you're going at a short line time period. So your waits will be greatly reduced with that. So now you're up in the morning, you're on the bus. You're going to tour. You're going to find and you're going to stop at all those places, and then you're going to hear those words, right? You got 15, 20 minutes to take all your pictures, do whatever you want. The gift shop's over here. The bathrooms are on the way out, and you need to be back on the bus at this time. And then you're going to be on to your next stop. At some point in time, you're going to stop for lunch. Those places are prearranged. They know we're coming, and they know what time you will approximately be there. You will arrive, and usually someone will come out and say, okay, these are the options that you have. You can have chicken, you can have falafel, you can have shawarma. How many want the shawarma? Great, and it starts popping out. And it's $15 a person, or it's $12 a person, or whatever it is. They will let you know what that is because anybody else that's walking into the restaurant's paying more than you are. Because EO, because of the respect that they have, has negotiated all of those rates at the different restaurants. Some of them will be sit down, some of them will be more of a quick serve cafe. They're all designed to give you unique experiences because you're not going to go eat at McDonald's. You're eating at local establishments that they have long-standing relationships with as they're doing that. You'll finish up lunch. You'll get back on your way, you'll tour. Sometime you'll get back to the hotel, and on some days you might have 45 minutes before dinner. Some days you might have 15 minutes. Sometimes you might have an hour. But when you get back to the hotel, dinner is arranged. There'll be tables set up and they'll say EO, and it'll have your color bus, and those are tables for you all to sit at. But you can come and go. It's buffet style. as you come in, the opportunity to eat as much as you want, sit at the tables, whatever you want, and do that. And the rest of your evening's free. Some of you will go, I am exhausted, I'm going to bed. But it's 6:30. I know, I'm going to bed. I don't know what time it is at home, but I know right now it's 6:30 and I'm tired and I'm going to go to bed. Others of you will choose to go and walk around because there'll be places that you can go and see that are in proximity to the hotel. Some of you will discover that there's a hotel bar and you will find that Middle Eastern wine is some of the best wine in the world. And they don't make a bad beer either. And they also have Gold Star, the beer of Israel. They will also have iced tea and soft drinks and all those kinds of, but just the opportunity to sit and decompress from the day, where you can talk about what you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy, what was good, and try to remember everything that you saw with that. That's pretty typical. And then every now and then we'll insert a place that we can say, here's a safe place to shop. And there will be different excursion stops that you can be placed at and say, here's a good place. One of them I know that you will get put at is in Bethlehem, and you'll stop at the Nissan Brothers. They do hand carve. It's a Palestinian Christian family that owns it. They hand carve. You'll tour the factory, and trust me on this, you will not pay whatever the price tag says. If you do, shame on you. All you need to do is collect everything, and at the end say, now let's negotiate, with that. And they will work with you on that. Here's what I can also tell you that I also appreciate about EO. Any of those places that we stop are not for the benefit of EO. They have been prearranged for your benefit. And this is what I mean by that. If you've ever traveled internationally with a tour company or on a cruise ship where they handed you a coupon and said, go to this store, it's because for every dollar that you spend at the store, somebody got a kickback. And I've been with guides with other companies when we left the marketplace that the owner walked out and started handing the guide a whole bunch of money because they overcharged everybody to give the guide the kickback. EO works it the other way around. If there was going to be a kickback, it's going in your pocket. EO doesn't want to profit off of it. What we want to do is bring business to the Palestinian Christians. We want to bring business to certain people that have become trusted partners. So if you want to buy antiquities, you want to buy actual antiques, coins from the time of Jesus, you want to buy lamps, you want to buy jewelry, all those opportunities will be there. And then if you just want to buy goofy trinkets, you want to buy an olive wood with 5 loaves or with 2 loaves or 5 loaves and 2 fishes, here you go. My favorite, you want to buy a sheep with googly eyes? Every time I go, I bring back another one. The flock just keeps growing. You familiar with the Dead Sea Scrolls? So here's from Qumran. This is a model of what those jars look like that contain the Dead Sea Scrolls. So from the goofy, or as like my life, you want to be artistic? This is a replica of the mosaic that's where Jesus multiplied the fish and the loaves. So this is a replica of the original mosaic that was there. So you're going to remember your baptisms, right? They will sell you a certificate if you would like. There is any number of things that you will have the opportunity to, and your guides will help you make sure that you're paying a fair price with that.
Can we ask about the money then?
I was gonna say.
And the reality is everywhere you're going to go, now, the other part of it is because of where you're traveling, you want to know one of the most preferred currencies? US dollars. So most of the things when you're there, they're going to be offering to sell them to you for $1 or $5. So carry with you $1 and $5. Do not talk to a street vendor and show them a $20 bill and ask for change, because you know what you'll get instead? 4 of them. Because you you can afford that. And they want to bargain. So if the first offer was it's 5, offer them $1. Offer them, how about 2 for 5? Whatever, it's part of the game. And if they're bothering you too much, you just tell your guide that they're harassing you and they will make them go away. That's just, it's Mexico. If you've been to Cabo or Cozumel or any of those places, it's like going down to the streets there, and that's what happens with that. But currency, $1, $5. The other cash that you will want to take with you is tip money, and we'll, as you get closer, and we divide that out. Your guides figure on the average, it's $7 a day. You will want, what I always say, put that money aside at the beginning of the trip. And then when Sam goes to collect money, it says we're going to collect an offering for our guides. In some cases, you will want to give more because that's what they will do. You will be amazed at what that driver is able to do to get you close and keep you safe. And you will be amazed at the extent that your guide will go to answer questions and help you navigate the marketplace, the retail site, to translate and to do those types of things. And that's just how we work with them. They work for a flat fee and for your gifts with that. And that, before you depart, those are some of those things that we'll work through those details. But that's about the extent of the cash. It's the simple cash when you're in the marketplace. The rest of the time they'll take credit cards, with that.
Once in a while, the restrooms, if you're at a restroom that's like on the street, you might take a shekel.
But your guide will have them for you, so
Once in a while.
it's not, US dollars will suffice you. It just gets really thick when you're carrying 1s and 5s, that's there. With that, your other need in terms of expense is your lunches on a daily basis. Those lunches are offered, they're not required. If you don't want to, if they tell you that this is what the lunch is and you go, yeah, I'm good. You don't owe them anything, right? You just didn't like what was on the menu. There's probably a cantina across the street that will sell you a bag of Frito-Lay and a protein bar, right? And if you're worried about that, but most of those places will also take cash. That's where, if you're carrying 20s, it's a great place for lunch because they will give you the change and they don't mind that because that's what they're doing all day long in terms of US currency. But the rest of the time, it's your credit card. It's the most secure way of doing anything.
One of the questions is, do we have to notify our card carriers before we go?
I have found that that's changed, but it depends on what your relationship is. It never hurts to make that notification. I've reached the point where my credit card companies know that I'm going to be anywhere and everywhere. They don't even question.
If you have the chip, you usually don't have to. But if you don't have a chip, you should, for sure. Yeah.
I would highly recommend that because I've gone to St. Louis to visit a cousin and had my card shut down.
Yeah.
But then where ours is like highly sensitive to being out of our typical day.
Yeah. So
It doesn't, going out of state, you're going out of.
that's the same thing with your cell phones. Here's what will happen when you hit the ground, Egypt, Israel, Jordan, and you turn your phone on. So you're taking it out of airplane mode. It's going to immediately vibrate and you're going to get a text. And this is what it's going to say. For $10 for a 24-hour time period, from the moment that you execute a text message or make a phone call, you will be charged $10 for the next 24 hours. And that's what you can do. Now, if you want to prearrange and change out the SIM or add an international plan, those international plans aren't by the day or by the week. You buy an international plan for the month, and they're typically $100 to $150. Now, if you think you're going to need to use your phone every day, every hour on the hour, absent of Wi-Fi, right? If you're good at it, I can use Wi-Fi and make every phone call I need. right? We called home. We've called home using the Facebook or WhatsApp, if you've used that before. You can FaceTime, all those types of things you can do because you're attached to the internet. And I can use Facebook to send messages. I don't even have to text. And Wi-Fi, I got all my email. So the rest of the time, my phone was on Do Not Disturb and airplane mode. And the last day, we had a free day, and we were going to try and not get lost in Jerusalem. I say try because even I had a map and couldn't follow it, and it was giving me the walking directions. And we still went in the wrong direction, and it kept telling me turn around. By the time I figured out, oh yeah, we could have gone that way. It would have been a lot quicker. But I just was using it because it was just pulling data, and it was part of the $10 for the day, which meant in the middle of the day we could call home to the States when she was awake, and we were in a cafe in Jerusalem, and talking with her. So credit card, talk to your carrier, but know that once you hit the ground, it's $10 for 24 hours. The moment whatever moment you start. If you started at 2 in the morning, it's good until 1:59 in the morning the following day. It's just a 24-hour period will cost you $10 within that for you to gain access to your system. Some carriers automatically give you international coverage. Some of the folks that didn't even pay extra for it. So check with your cell phone carrier in terms of what that is. In the places that you're staying for an extended period, most of the hotels will allow you, what we would think of as dry cleaning, or you could send clothes out to be washed. It's expensive. That's all I'll say with that.
I have a question about electricity. Do we need adapters?
They have it.
They have.
They have electricity. Yes, they do. They have electricity. I'd have to double check. You can online. It's just you can buy an adapter that's a multi-country adapter. Israel is the 2 straight prongs. Yeah. Carry it with. Yeah. Carry it with you. You'll need it to be able to charge your phone. Ladies, for most of the hotels you're going to stay at have hair dryers because they realize, what the number one thing that blows up with an adapter, hair dryers and curling irons. And in terms of that, it's just they don't convert well in terms of that, no matter what you do. And so an adapter plug, it's a 2-prong, and you can pick them up at Target. Walmart has them. You can buy, Amazon's great because you can buy them. You can buy an Amazon pack that's got like 3 of them, and they look like these little cubes. And it just depends on whether you fold out, prongs this way, that way, straight plugs, whatever, and you can go anywhere with it. And we always forget that we have them, and then buy more, and now we've got enough to, supply an army with conversion with that in terms of that. The other question was about when does the insurance start? The answer would be your full payment is due on 9/12, so you are to be fully paid on 9/12. Your insurance starts on 9/13. Because until you're fully paid, there's nothing to insure. Until you're fully paid up, that's when your trip is now booked and you are paid for. That's when the insurance kicks in, because after 9/12, you already are paid. If you had to cancel for one of those reasons or something happened, that's when the insurance starts. So you're not insured today. You're insured for what's considered the duration of the trip, and that duration of that trip starts the moment you're fully paid.
So if we would afford to pay tomorrow.
Still doesn't start till 9/12 because nothing's been booked. So you could be fully paid tomorrow and ask for, you get all of your money back minus your deposit, but not on 9/13, because on 9/13, airplanes, hotels, everything's booked and paid for, and now there are cancellation fees involved, and that's what the insurance is there for, to cover those cancellations.
I have a question about, you were talking about the COVID things changing between now and then. if something changes that we cannot or don't want to satisfy, some requirement, do we get our money back or?
Up until 9/12, yes. So that's the advantage of, you register, if you were to register now, you get the full benefit of all the discounts. And you would basically have until 9/11, I just didn't want to say that, to make that decision. Because here's the interesting thing, just so you understand this, if you can read the fine print, like, pull out the magnifying glass, pull out. EO is not going to send you a bill. What you are creating with EO is a bank. And they're recommending that your bank have X number of dollars in it by this date, by this date. But you know what, Sam, if somebody comes to you on 9/11 and says, I'd like to go, you can still register them. They just have to be fully paid. When? On 9/12. When do you need to be fully paid? 9/12. Your advantage of registering now is the discounts that you get, and then you can begin to make payments. It's a Christmas club. All that, if you read what they're going to tell you, they're saying, we would suggest that you have X number of dollars in your bank by this date, and X number of dollars in your bank by this date and this date. Because they know it's going to get really hard to put all that money in the bank if you haven't been putting it on deposit that's there. But you're never going to get from them an invoice that says you owe us this much because it's April 1st. You owe us this much because it's May 1st. You will get a notice that says, here's what you paid, and here's the balance that will be due when? 9/12. That's there. So does that help?
Yeah.
With that, and based on the way that, what I would tell you that based on the way things have gone, Israel, Jordan, and Egypt, by extension, have been at the forefront of writing COVID protocols. Here's what Israel announced just at the end of last year. You probably never heard it in the U.S. because they don't want to tell you these things. Israel discovered that in 2.5 years of COVID protocol dealing with travel in and out of Israel, the reason they dropped the need for you to be tested coming in, and they were in the process of building labs that were going to draw your blood, and you were going to sit in the airport and wait for the immediate result before they let you go into the country. They were prepared to do that. You know what they discovered? Not one outbreak in the nation of Israel was related to a foreign tourist. 2.5 years, not one outbreak in Israel could be tied to a foreign tourist. You know who caused the outbreaks? An Israeli citizen that went to Jordan and came home. An Israeli citizen that went up to Galilee for the summer and went on vacation in one of the resorts and came back to Jerusalem. And at that point, they realized that what they were testing for was pointless. And that became adopted. They were some of the leaders that were there, and Israel's been at the forefront of that. It would take something of, I don't want to be prophetic. It would take catastrophic that would take us back to where we've been with those types of restrictions. I can tell you, this is what you will get used to, wearing masks or seeing people wearing masks, right? It used to be you knew that they were from Asia, right? Oh, those Chinese and Japanese, they're crazy. They're always wearing masks when they're in the airport. I don't understand that. And now you know who wears masks in the airport? A whole bunch of people from America. And it's choice. What's interesting is all the airlines have instituted clean air recycling. Actually, the air on the airplanes now is better than what your kids are probably getting in school or on the bus. But that doesn't stop people from wanting to wear a mask or from the airlines requiring it. On our last flight, which was American from New York to Israel, you were required on the plane to have a mask on. But that's a US-based company. If I were to fly on Turkish Airlines or fly on Israeli El Al, they didn't require it. So that's why it's so hard. I can't tell you what the airline's going to require because I don't know at this point what airline you will be on flying into Cairo or what you will be on going to Jordan.
Just to follow that same thought, if the policy should change after September 12th, 13th, then there would be cancellation and that.
And EO, all I can tell you is that EO's policy, from the past has been, how would I put it, has not always been in the best interest of EO, but has always been in the best interest of the clients, which or travelers. If it's a case where it may be a case where if let's say it got to be the week before and you just said, you know what, I'm just not comfortable, then I'm going to give you a choice. You don't have any insurance and you've decided that you didn't want to travel. EO in all likelihood is going to give you a choice. We'll give you full credit towards another trip booked in the next 18 months. Or we will give you the money back based on the cancellation fees. Why? Because the US State Department didn't tell us that we couldn't travel. And Egypt, Jordan, and Israel didn't tell us that we couldn't enter the country. If you had insurance, as long as you could meet one of their guidelines, then you're fully insured at that point. And if not, you didn't hear from me, you might want to come down with something that your doctor can write a letter and say that you have.
We want to get insurance through another source. Do we have to provide proof that, hey, I've got this policy in place?
If it's required, at this point, they're asking for it. I don't know that they will by the time we travel. But yes, if you've got another source to be able to do that.
If we get our own and we had checked the box back here when we filled it, how do we let them know we don't need that one?
When you get one of your statements, just contact EO and follow up and just state at that time that you're now going to decline the coverage. And the easier thing to do, we're declining coverage because we're getting it through another source. The insurance that EO provides is not an EO-owned company. It's not another profit center for them. It's just an arrangement that they have with a reputable provider.
Can I ask another question? On passport information, I don't think it said exactly what we're supposed to give you. We have copies of that main page in our passport that we've always traveled with and used. Can we send that to you?
If you can do this, and I don't know how, one of the easiest ways to register is to go online. And Sam can help you with that.
We've already been.
Okay. So you can furnish them with that. You can go online and still add it in because you can do that. And at that point, they just need, it's all the numbers that's there. The reason that's important, and here's when you start to get those documents, like when you get them, you need to check them immediately, including your registration, because here's what you want to make sure, that they have you flying out of the right city, right? You don't want to find out the day before you're leaving that they've got you booked out of Oklahoma City. Because there's not gonna be any way to change that. You're flying out of Oklahoma City, you better hoof it really quick. So when you get that confirmation, check that. Also check that your passport, your full legal name and the numbers are correct. Because if not, you can join my wife in the airport in Frankfurt, Germany, when her passport did not link to her email that she had flown in with. And we went through a little bit of struggle to get her a boarding pass to get back to the US. But you just want to make sure all those things sync up because everything is digital today. So you just verifying on that confirmation that your passport and your name are in agreement. And here's the good news. You got time. It's February. You're not leaving for quite some time. So as long as the earlier you register means you get rid of all those worries and details that are there. Sam, can you think of anything else that you wanted covered? Go ahead.
Yeah, what about food challenges, people that have allergies or restrictions in their eating?
I'll answer it this way. My wife is gluten-free. She doesn't starve.
Mediterranean food is great for us.
The reality of it is, the Mediterranean or Middle Eastern diet is very allergy, friendly. It's not American diner, in terms of that. So there's options, and they're pretty good at being able to work through that. Part of that's being able to communicate it. For instance, even on the airline flight over, being able to communicate that as soon as you can with the airline, because otherwise you're not going to get any choice that's there. And I know that because I always forget to tell the airline that she's gluten free, and so then she's picking through what she can eat, which is usually the protein bar she carried with her. But I get 2 meals, and then again it's airline food, so I get 2 meals with that.
Are we limited on how much luggage we can bring? I mean, obviously, I'm gonna bring.
Yes, and it'll depend on the airline. I mean, so the answer is you can take as much as you want. You're just going to pay for whatever that's
I
there.
guess what's included in our package?
Generally speaking, it's 1 check, 1 carry-on, and a personal item,
And 50 pounds.
and 50 pounds. Yeah.
So the rooms all strictly double occupancy, or could some of them be multiple?
It varies. You can request if you wanted a room for free. It's not going to lower your travel costs.
Yeah, I didn't expect that.
But they can, if they know in advance, it's an oddity of hotels. And what I mean by that is, for the first time, I got booked in a room that had a double bed and a twin in it. And they were still pushed together. I got a king, sort of. And somehow or other, I still got stuck on the twin part of it. So you can make that request. The only caution is what you could end up with is 2 twin beds and a rollaway. In terms of that. So it can be done. Again, the further in advance that you're making those requests is the way that they can prepare for you. Because when you arrive at the hotel, you're not going to check in at the desk. They're going to call out your name and they're going to hand you the keys, and you're free to go, and your luggage is going to go to the room.
Okay.
That's why those tags are so important.
So like, we're gonna room together, and you said would be 2 twin beds or whatever. Will we need to tell them that we want them apart, or?
In all likelihood, because they would just be separated, and if they're not,
We can do that ourselves.
you can do that yourself.
So for a 2-week trip, what would you pack as far as clothes?
No.
Well, for me, I'm a minimalist. So what I mean by that is that I probably have maybe, well, I'm not a total minimalist. I would have 14 pairs of underwear. And I would have 14 pairs of socks. And I would have the pair of shoes that I wore and a pair of shoes that another pair of shoes that I want to travel with. And I would put the lighter of the 2 pair in the suitcase. Beyond that, I'm going to go with, you're going to be bored. If I get back at the end of the tour day and I want to change, what you're going to see me in dinner is what I'm wearing tomorrow. I'm going to do a quick, so like, you may see me in this orange top 4 times in 2 weeks.
Undershirts, you can choose.
But I'm going to change out the polo or the t-shirt that's underneath it. That's there. If I brought a sweater, the sweater, here's the beauty of it. When you take all those pictures, they're going to be amazed at how many places you went to in the same day. With that. Does that help with that?
Well, the reason I was asking, because you said how the laundry is rather expensive, so I'm trying to think pragmatically, how much should we take for a 2-week trip?
Now, and here's the other side of it. I'm thinking of our good friend Jennifer.
Yeah.
We traveled with Jennifer for 10 days. What she had on at breakfast and we toured with was not what she had on at dinner, and never again during the week did you ever see those 2 outfits.
Chris.
But she was only this big.
No, I know.
I mean, every day it was 2 different outfits, very fashionably put together, and it was just like,
Why?
I didn't see the trunk. How did you carry all of that?
But she's only.
Yeah.
Those are little.
I think she vacuum packed it. It was like. So it's one of those things where you begin to lay it out, and so you set aside, I need this much underwear, I need these many socks. Now, how many shirts do I need? How many pair of pants do I need? My wife always says I need one more pair of pants because I ruin at least one pair during dinner. You know.
I still think.
And then just remember that you're going to dress in layers. So the layer that you have on in the morning may not be the same layer that you have on in the afternoon and the evening. So you went through 3 clothes changes anyway.
And it's always safe if you have layers, you can leave it on the bus. It's always safe to leave it on the bus if you're getting up, because the bus driver always locks the bus when you get up.
Right, and that's a good remembrance because you've got the same bus and the same driver as your driver. You can leave your camera on the bus if you don't want to carry it. You can leave your backpack on the bus. If you taken your jacket off and said, I don't want this, you're not panicked that you left it on the bus. It's locked, it's secured, and it is it's a safe place that's there.
So how much cash, back to the cash thing, you said $7 a day approximately for tips? So how much would you suggest we take? 200, 300? 500? You said take a lot of money.
I'm doing some quick math here.
It's $10 a day. The driver. I mean, $7.99.
If you took with you between $350 and $400 in cash, you would be able to take care of your tips and your lunch every day.
Okay.
And still maybe have a couple dollars to buy, you know,
But don't get carried
How much
away.
roughly about $400.
That's the thing you put on your credit.
And then I'm going to be real honest with you. So I'm going to, at the risk of being sexist, okay? I'm just going to have a conversation here. Go with a planned budget for shopping.
You don't even know who you're talking to.
Go with a planned budget for what you're going to spend, like, you know, because you're going and you're going to see things and go, oh, I want that. And so go with that budget, and then be prepared, that whatever that budget was, you're going to probably blow through it before the halfway through the trip, because you're going to see things, and here's the argument. I'm still looking for the stole that I didn't buy on my first trip, because I saw it and it was a baptismal stole. I've never seen another one like it. Even going back to the same place year after year, they've never had it again. And so here's what I learned: the problem with setting a budget isn't her problem, it's mine. So when I travel, I set the budget because I just need to know in terms of what your credit card is. So knowing what your credit card limit is and knowing what that is, because when you get to Nissan Brothers, you're going to find a nativity set that you're going to absolutely fall in love with. And it's not going to be a $50 nativity set. It's going to be a $500 or a $750 nativity set. Do you have your bracelet on? Do you have your necklace on? So the necklace that she has on, we were shopping at a jewelry store, and she knew what our budget was. So she was shopping, and the person kept saying, she goes, no, that's too much, and look over. So I went to our guy and I said, okay, what's the discount? Because here's what I'm willing to spend. So then we flashed the signals, and she goes, let's go over here to this counter. And her eyes got this big, but she has on that necklace now.
It's a Jerusalem crop.
And so, and the bracelet we bought.
You guys bought it, I didn't.
But it wasn't what I planned, which I said to him that I was at a jeweler in Jerusalem, and I asked him, I said, now I've been online to your store and I'm looking, you had this bracelet, it's really cool. It's got the 12 stones from the ephod for the temple. And I said, it's a silver bracelet. And he goes, yeah, let me see if I have one of those. And he goes, oh, he says, I don't have one here at the store. Those are only available online. But sometimes I have one. He says, but I have this one.
Well,
which was 5 times as much as the other one. And by the time I was done, I said I should have stayed online. But she's got a
See, everything
gold
you
bracelet
do,
with,
So you have to remember that as well.
yeah.
because-
oh, but no, you don't have to worry about that, because when you go to shop for these types of things, you know what they say? Oh, don't worry about it. If you would like, we can ship home for you. We ship it home for you, very low cost. Very low cost. For you, sir, you spend so much, we ship it home for you for free. You want a credit card? We take credit card. You will know that you've won the day. You will know that you have won the day. I was in the Armenian market and negotiated with a guy, and I was not happy with what I was paying him, but I didn't have any choice because I hadn't bought it at the other place, less expensive, the day before. So I had to pay the price because I needed these 3 items. So I finally agreed to the price, but they run their credit cards through a central bank. So we walked just a few feet down to the central place, and I get out my wallet and I pull out the American Express card. And the guy says, oh, do you have Visa? And I go, well, yeah, Visa, because you don't want to pay the American Express fees, because they're 2 and 3 times what Visa and MasterCard are. And I go, well, as a matter of fact, I do have a Visa card. And I turn to the young man that I've been working with, what's my discount if I give him the Visa card? You know what he said to me? He said, sir, you are a very nice man, but you are very difficult to work with. Just take his American Express. At that point, I knew that I had won the day, and I was happy.
Is it true that if you see something you really want, you better get it there?
Yes.
Yes.
And if you're not sure about the price, ask your
The
guide,
guy will help you.
because your guide will be able to tell you, I can get you that item, but if you will wait. In terms of that, they're really good at knowing what's there, but when it comes to trinkets, like, you know, the tchotchkes of the world, the mini souvenirs, if you see something you like, just buy it, in terms of that.
Are the prices they give you gonna be in American dollars or in their money?
Yes.
Really?
But, it's always good to clarify, because the shekel will make everything sound really expensive.
Yeah, they'll make it sound
Um,
expensive.
With that. And here's the other thing too, in Israel, there's a value-added tax. And once you have spent over $100, you can get the tax refunded at the airport. So you just take your receipt, and here's the caution in your guides and your field trip. If you do not have the item with you to prove that you purchased it, all you have is the receipt, you will not get a refund. There will be, as they said in Seinfeld, no soup for you.
Singular item or cumulative?
It's usually in a single store. You might have bought multiple items, but a single store, they will give you the paperwork and they will tell you. Now, here's the advantage. When you are in the West Bank, so your Jericho, Bethlehem, those areas, when you go there, because it's the West Bank and they haven't figured out how to do taxes, there is no value-added tax. So you're automatically saving 18% on an item in Bethlehem that might be the same item that you see in Jerusalem, because once you see the same item at the same price, it has 18% tax added to it, because that's their value-added tax. So when you consider that if you're buying something that's $500 and you're not paying tax on it, that's a good thing. If you're buying an $800 bracelet, you better have the bracelet and receipt with you, because they're about to give you a boatload of money back at the airport, because you already paid the tax and now you're going to get the refund.
So we will have time to do that kind of thing before we fly out.
Yeah, because they'll get you to the airport in plenty of time. Because the last thing they want to do is have you miss your flight going home.
Are they leaving on a visitor?
Yeah. Was there another question?
What's the exchange rate?
Yeah, the credit card will do it automatically based on what their exchange rate is. I had it jotted. Roughly, the current rate is $1 equals 3.4 shekels. It's about 29 cents to the dollar. So when you see something that's 340 shekels, you need to divide by 3.4, and it's not $340, it's $10. That's there. And if you're paying, even if you're in a gift shop in Jerusalem and you pay with cash, you're going to get your change in shekels. Because they don't have the ability to give you the exact change. So they'll give it to you as close as they can in shekels.
So if you only have a 1 or a 5, you should be all right.
In most, yeah, bingo. So I said, about $400 cash. You know, if you wanted to take more, but $400 cash, if what you're using it for is tipping, lunch, and an occasional, which that's the other thing that reminds me, when you're on the bus, your bus driver is going to have ice cold bottles of water. And all he's going to ask in return is that by the end of the week, you pony up with him at $1 a bottle, which is much better than the local place that wants to charge you 10 shekels for do the math. He's charging you $2.50 a bottle that you can get for $1 on the bus. And there's a little refrigerator compartment and it's there. And if you didn't have your dollar that day, he doesn't tell you you can't have a bottle of water. It's just catch up with him at some point.
And you guys need to be trained as much as you'll be doing. You'll need water.
I read somewhere online that you shouldn't like salad or fresh fruit that's been cut or anything. They said
off the streets. It's like being in Mexico. Don't buy food from the street vendors.
Restaurants are.
But the rest, everything that you're doing, it's filtered water, it's clean water. The last thing they want to do is make a busload of Americans sick and never have them ever come back to their establishment ever again.
Yeah, you got bread on the street, but don't buy fruit
Yeah.
on the street.
But yeah, those types of fresh vegetables, fresh food, and they'll usually tell you, like, you'll stop at places that they'll go, oh, if you ever wanted to try pomegranate juice, this guy here has got a glass that's available for $3. It's freshly squeezed, it's perfectly safe. You can buy it from him. And your guide will know who those are to be able to do that. And fresh pomegranate juice is really good for you. It's very tart.
How long is the flight?
Where are they going into?
Too long.
Depends on tailwind, but longer than you want, but
I know.
15 hours on your real clock.
Where are they going?
Egypt, roughly 15 hours.
So-
Roughly 15 hours with a full bank of movies at your availability and free meals. Oh, yay. Airline food. They will board you on your plane in an hour after you're on. They'll feed you dinner, no matter what time it is, because they want you to be full and go to sleep so that you will not bother them. If you are asleep, they won't give you the middle of the night snack. They will come around in the early part of the morning and they will give you breakfast. That's what they call it. And then shortly before you land, they'll give you something called a light lunch. You got to remember, they put all that food on the plane before you left the U.S. and they're now serving it to you 12 hours later. In terms of that, I've learned a trick. If you're flying into Israel, you should order kosher meals because they serve all of the Reformed Jews on the plane first. And if you order a kosher meal, you'll get your food first, and you won't wait till the end when they run out of everything. I haven't done that yet, but I'm going to.
So question, you said some places they'll come on the bus and say these are your options. Will they tell us what those things are?
Oh yeah, if you don't know what it is, yes.
I don't know what shawarma is.
Shawarma, you don't know what they call it, like here, you know what they call shawarma here? Pulled chicken.
Okay.
It's basically just chicken that's been shaved. It's stringy, but it's done in a Mediterranean spice.
Yeah.
And it's typically served on a pita with tahini sauce and fresh vegetables. Falafels are a fried chickpea. It's a hush puppy made out of chickpeas. And then I can describe all this to you. And what was the other thing I said?
Chicken.
Oh, yeah, it's schnitzel. It's literally, it's what that is, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's an Indiana tenderloin made with chicken. I mean, those are typical roadside cafes that are three staples. You get that, a lot of chicken dishes, a lot of poultry dishes with rice, and vegetables.
It's all protein.
No, it's not, it's not a Central American spice. So it's flavorful, but not hot and not overpowering.
I like it, because I don't like anything spicy.
I've had chicken fried steak with white pepper gravy that has a lot more kick than anything I've ever eaten in the Middle East.
Are they gonna have seafood?
I don't know, because it's, I
What about those extra little flights, those little tunnel jumper things? How big is that?
don't, well, they're really not puddle jumpers, because when you consider you're going from Cairo to Jordan, that's, Indianapolis to Dallas. You know, it's just a couple hour flight, that's there. So, you're not,
So I've never been on an overnight flight.
so I'm pretty sure it'll be Indiana Jones.
Where we were.
She's asking you questions.
Yeah, are the seats the same size on an overnight flight?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yes, if you want to pay, you can upgrade. So if you want to do that, there's another thing to do registerly, you can upgrade from economy.
It's like five across in the middle and 2 and 2. So there's a lot more seats, but they're not as big.
So you can pay the difference to like go to economy plus, to business, or to, I have my own bed with my own bedroom and TV and a personal waitress. And
Oh, you can't open
That
it.
may or may not be more efficient on their back.
The business.
If you go to Google. and just tell them you- It looks like a little cube. It plugs into their wall depending on which side you use. So it's just an elaborate cube with the different
Yeah,
prongs.
and it's just 2 straight prongs.
So middle piece will cover all three places.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's the different plugs, because sometimes it's 2 or it's 1, and I think he just snapped a picture of it.
Yeah.
That's there.
I've got a question. We have 2 people who are coming from Kansas City. Would it be better for them to drive here, go from Fort Wayne, or to fly straight?
They can book straight out of Kansas City. So when they go online, they just list their city of departure as Kansas City. So yours is listed as, you have already. So essentially, your advantage right now is you're paying, $100 to fly out of Fort Wayne instead of New York. So your cost is $100 from Fort Wayne to wherever the flight's going to depart from. It's gonna be the same thing. If they're from Kansas City, it will start at $49.98 and add the cost of departing Kansas City. You got somebody that wants to fly from Dallas, somebody wants to fly from Chicago, Indianapolis, wherever. For the simplicity's sake, we help you get a price so that you know what it would be from your primary city of departure that you would choose.
And just so you know, I think if you want, we're talking about possibly taking one of the church vans up. So we'd only have 1 parking fee instead of a whole bunch. But that's,
Or, I mean, it'd be okay.
yeah, if you want to get dropped off, it's fine. I'm just saying, we're gonna have that option. So
Actually, maybe you would, I think.
And it's the oddity too, most of your departures will be late morning, early afternoon out of Fort Wayne. But you'll be returning late at night. The reason being is that if, I don't care whether you're gonna depart, you might depart out of Atlanta, you might depart out of New York, you might end up departing out of Newark or JFK. But we've got to get you there to take care of any delays. Because if I tried to get you in there an hour before your international flight departed, one backup, and you just missed your international flight. And now you are 2 days behind the group. And if you look at your itinerary, 2 days, you not only have you missed a lot, but I may struggle to get you caught back up to them. In other words, if you miss that flight, you're probably joining the group in Jordan, because I'm not going to be able to hook you up in Egypt. That's why it's, when you get your flights, you're going to see that you have long layovers going out. Your layovers coming back get much shorter, because we don't have international flights coming back to the U.S. Don't have the same problem that we have in the U.S. with the Eastern Seaboard in terms of one storm, one city changes travel up and down the entire board for you.
And just to let you guys know, at least one family friend of ours from India is coming. So if you've got people who are not here and want to join us, that's good. It works. So
Yeah, anywhere in the U.S., anywhere in the state of Indiana, they can hook up and connect with you. The important thing is, no matter what city they departed with, y'all are going to be on the same plane when you head out. So you'll gather together on that final plane headed overseas. Beyond that, here to share with you, I'll stay around and answer questions. Up here are pictures, brochures, postcards, trinkets. My wife made me stop at all the things I could have brought. because-
He has a whole office.
What about dairy issues? Is goat milk not a dairy product? If somebody has dairy issues, how does that affect their travel?
Don't ask for milk. There's-
Don't drink the milk.
Cheese.
I mean, but cheese is not, here's the thing, in terms of that, they're typically not in the dishes. So like breakfast is eggs and bread and cheese and fish and fruit
Okay.
and yogurt, like no yogurt you've ever eaten before, with everything that you want to put in it. Or cereal,
You don't have to.
and coffee, yes, lots of coffee. Anything else that you want me to?
any other questions you guys have?
I would hope, if nothing else, if you got information, that was great, but it's hard for me to contain my excitement. This travel, and I know what it means, because I've had so many folks from my churches and friends that have traveled with us. It just opens everything up, because suddenly everything that you have believed, everything that you have studied is no longer on a piece of paper. It becomes real. And when it becomes real, no one ever again will tell you that you're crazy for believing that. Because what you're going to say to them is, oh yeah? Well, let me tell you where I've been. And I've been here, and I touched that stone. It's real. Nobody made that story up. And I was on the Sea of Galilee, and let me tell you those are the things that you're going to be able to come back with that will completely change how you look at and how you understand your faith. And with that, that gets me excited in terms of that.
So
Some of us old people that have limitations, for like walking long distances, is that going to be?
I'll answer it two ways. My last group, we had 3 people that were in walkers. And they survived. Yeah. Here's the thing with the walking. You're going to know in advance. In most cases, it's going to be a walk from the bus to that door, and then you're in a museum. Or it's a walk from here to there, and now you're at an excavated site with pathways. Or I'm going to tell you, this has got some rugged terrain, and you may make and if you don't want to, there are options. So on that last trip with some of those folks, we hung out in the museum. We didn't walk up the hill to do those types of things. But The longest day of walking that you'll have is the day you spend inside the city of Jerusalem. And that's it. That's the longest day. Everything else is stop start. It's not like the bus took and dropped you off in Decatur and said, I'll pick you up in Fort Wayne. It's going to drop you off and you're going to be in Markle and you're going to go to the antique mall and then they're going to let you come back out and then they're going to drive you someplace else and you're going to get it. So it's broken up throughout the day with those types of options.
So we can read the Psalms of Ascension on the bus on the way up to Jerusalem.
Yes, you could.
Not
So-
walking.
Two things, we're planning to do, throughout the summer, probably, more of a, I don't wanna call it a Bible study, but talking about the places we're going, to give you the heads up, so that you know what we're looking at, most of it. That way, hopefully it'll help eliminate a little bit of the drinking from a fire hose. And then the other thing is, I've been told, we use it a lot. If you are familiar with WhatsApp, it's basically a free international texting app, and it works very well on even like 1 bar of signal or Wi-Fi. And so I would encourage you to maybe get that. We should probably try and have like a group for all of us to be a part of, just so that we can keep in contact. And if we need to have a group that includes people from here back home, don't hesitate to let us know. We can do that as well. Because I've got a lot of friends who do international travel, and they say that app is phenomenal for it. He mentioned that, and of course, Facebook Messenger. Facebook wants to be everywhere now anyway, so.
What you just got put in front of you, let me just suggest you do this. Put that someplace prominent and you can see. That is hand carved, or I should say hand, that was machine carved by the Nissan brothers from Bethlehem. It's a tiny little communion cup. Right now it's empty. May your prayer be that when this trip is over, it's filled to overflow.
Yep. I still actually use it every day. Right there beside Facebook and Facebook Messenger, people still contact me regularly. It works really well, especially for international. You guys probably use it too. Any other questions for Rodney? Yeah, we'll have opportunities to do more meetings. I want to give you guys an opportunity. There's some snacks back here if you want it. If you want to come up and see his pictures and stuff. Thank you, Rodney, for coming, and you guys, yeah.